Thank you, President Zach, for that very kind intro. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How is everyone doing? It's graduation time, yeah. Big thanks to entire Agnes Scott College community, the Board of Trustees, my beloved faculty and staff who are all over, some behind me, some here, some there, retired professors, lecturers. I'm sorry I can't see all of you. Proud parents, guardians, my family, both chosen and given, and friends who have traveled from afar, thank you. My Scottish siblings, and especially the class of 2024, thank you for giving me this opportunity to address your commencement. You know, before I was flying here, I live in LA now, bougie LA. A friend was like, oh, this must be your most, biggest gig, because I do speaking gigs for a living. And I said, this ain't a gig for me. I'm going home. I've returned to the first home of my young adult life, where I groomed and found the foundation for my independent self. And by the way, this is the first time I'm getting to wear the robe because I didn't attend my own graduation, because I had already fled off to the Himalayas and was settled there when the ceremony took place. To be very honest and real, after almost 20 years, that was the excuse I gave at that time, but the real reason why I chose not to attend was that at that point in my life, I was so wounded and broken and hurt internally from childhood traumas and missing my parents, and the fact that neither of my parents, who were alive at that time, wasn't going to consciously attend my graduation ceremony. I wasn't healed like I am now to see that all my professors would be there for me as my parents, like they have arrived now 2 decades later. So thank you. This is also my graduation party. From the tender age of 12, following the abandonment by the woman who gave birth to me and a series of very traumatic events that took place as a result of that, including separation from my loving Abbu, my father, I had to take a lot of load on my back from the very young age. Even as a fresh teenager, I had a really strong urge in the midst of all this chaos to free myself, and the only way I knew how to do that was to go for education. And I didn't want to just get educated. I wanted quality education. I contacted my aunt, Chobi Rof, who was living in a different city, Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh. She was really the God-sent angel in my life. I told her that I wanted to learn English. At that time, our mother tongue is Bengali, and I was in a Bengali medium school. So she took me in, along with her husband, my uncle, Nat Rof, and I moved cities at the age of 13 on my own, worked really hard through middle and high school, and as soon as college time came, I applied to various colleges in US, UK, and Australia. But you see, I didn't have money. No one was going to pay for me. I wrote an essay on the pain of parental abandonment, and that gave me a scholarship to this college in a place called Decatur, Georgia. I had applied to that college because another cousin of mine, Rubaya Hassan, had been there. I had heard from her, and please, she arrived all the way. I'm seeing her after 2 decades, class of 2002. But in my mind, America, all of America was literally New York, what we saw on TV. This is, of course, before smartphone era. I boarded a flight on my own from Dhaka to Atlanta at the tender age of 18 going into 19, and all my aunts, not blood related. Not all of them are blood related. There's a whole auntie culture in South Asian. I'll go into that later. But they were all crying, some pretend crying at the airport as if they were marrying me off. And, you know, I was thrilled. I was beyond thrilled to get the hell out of there, thinking I'm going to New York or something that looked like New York. As I was hopping into the Dhaka immigration, one of those aunts squeezed me by the elbow and said, it's very derogatory in Bengali, but I'll do the decent English translation. Do not return as a lesbian. I don't have much recollection of what I responded, but in my mind, I said to myself, I am ever coming back, lesbian or not. In that flight, in the background, music in my head, not in the airline, Luda's Coming to America was playing. Luda meaning ludicrous. Please don't Google the lyrics. Everyone Googling right now. I knew in my heart that I was coming to some place that looked kind of similar to maybe New York City because that was my idea of America, but then I landed in Decatur, Georgia. Now, I'm never going to be that auntie or big sister who's going to look down and tell you, oh, honey, when I was your age, baby doll, things were very different. But when I was your age, Decatur was very different. It was an era when Atlanta, or Hotlanta, and several cities of the South blew across the world as the hub known as Dirty South. Dirty South was a particular genre of American hip-hop music that emerged in southern United States. Even though, as a teenager, I didn't quite understand all of English words, hip-hop taught me my first English and my first curse words. I initially had planned to give you a taste of that music on stage, but when majority of the lyrics were being printed, I thought that would not be appropriate. So we're gonna do an experiment. Please help me welcome Dr. Woo Eung Kwon, the amazing pianist, who might do some of who we will try to align some of the dirty sound tunes in piano. Feel free to groove from your seats if you desire, or you could meditate with this version, as it turned out to be soothingly calming. When I move, you groove, just like that. Hotlanta also taught me it's not where you from, but where you pay rent, and that we could be cooler than polar bears' toenails. Those are the lines from Outkast's song, in case someone doesn't recognize. I also learned how to say, it's never a showdown here, it's a hoedown. In my first semester, in search of spiritual enlightenment, I sought out yoga classes in all of Decatur and ended up in this dance studio that had classes listed as tap dancing, yoga, West African drumming, Pilates, and then booty clapping. Now, I was familiar with that term through hip hop. I am seeing my auntie's face, who warned me at the airport right now. I was familiar with those terms, but I had no idea that there's a whole world and a galaxy and a universe out there when it comes to that. And I must confess that since then, I've been blessed to see clapping in all 6 continents. I'd add the 7th, but in Antarctica, all the clapping that was happening were from penguins and seals. But no clapping quite like the Hotlanta booty clapping. AC was quite diverse in my time already, and I was impressed to learn how exceptionally diverse the current student body is and that there's no ethnic majority on campus. How beautiful is that? More than 60% of our students, I'm going to say our because it's my college, our students are persons of color. Approximately 40% of students are recipients of federal Pell Grants, and nearly a third of the first in their families to attend college. When the college awarded me the Outstanding Young Alumni Award in 2016, Summit had just launched, a program that I'm mighty proud of. Summit is Agnes Scott's unique experience in which every student, every first-year students went abroad and completes a core curriculum focused on global learning, leadership development, and professional success. It was one of such grants, back then it was called something different, based on global learning, that initially had taken me to a place called Dharamsala, based in the northern part of India, where the exiled Tibetan community is headquartered. And when I landed there, amongst the various groups of people I met, I bumped into this group of women some of whom were former nuns, some of whom were just lay practitioners, Tibetan Buddhist practitioners, and each of them had gone through enormous torture and abuse in their life. Yet, they were sitting there, glowing, radiating positive light, and doing some practices called Tonglen and such that are really popular now, to take on the negative karma of their enemies and send them good merits. Now, this was a concept that was very new to me, and I thought I had it wrong. I thought everything bad happened to me. This group of women, along with their entire civilization, their lands taken, their religions destroyed, yet they have not a single ounce of revenge-like feeling in them. Instead, they're treating their enemies with compassion. And so at that time, the timeline was I had a work permit. Back then, it was very hard to get a work permit for international students. And I was supposed to come here and join the good life in America. But in that trip back home, I decided to forsake that and had a yard sale where all my professors came and bought insignificant things like Nirvana poster, and I don't remember, like used bed sheets and stuff. And it gave me enough money to get one-way ticket back to Dharamsala, and I left with no guarantee, and the rest is history. Shortly after, I was blessed with the friendship of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the 1989 Nobel Peace Laureate and the leader of the Tibetan people, who has been leading from exile the longest-running non-violent resistance against one of the most powerful regime on the planet, the CCP. Kundun, as we like to call him, the one with the presence, it was really through his friendship and his presence in my life that I started healing all those traumatic childhood events. And while working with Tibetans on human rights and environmental issues, I'd travel a lot in the Himalayan belt, spanning all the way from Nepal, Tibet, and just as a pastime, because I happen to be around Sherpa people. Sherpa people are the local inhabitants of the Everest region, who are originally Tibetan. Sherpa means coming from the east of Tibet. Then I realized how slowly that these big expeditions essentially were actually pilgrimages for me. And shockingly enough, my body was getting good at it. Kundun took a great interest in my climbs and was always eager to hear. However, our approach to climbing is very different. You see, the Himalayas are mountains where all our gods and goddesses live. In fact, Everest is a British dude's name. Oh, the British. Don't get me started on them. The local name of the mountain is Chomulungma, where Miolangsangma, mother goddess of the universe, a feminine entity, lives. And before approaching the mountain, we have elaborate pujas or rituals where we surrender whatever we have at the foot of the goddess. And then we seek her permission to walk on her body. I mean, I don't want to climb Everest's body, you know, like a British dude's body. I would rather be on Chomulungma's body. And then when we look for signs, and when we get the good omen, as predicted by or confirmed by the local lama, only then we approach the mountain. With the height of 8848.86 meters or 29,031 feet, this is the mightiest, the tallest mountain. However, it's a living goddess entity. She's awake and alive, and she's known as the goddess of inexhaustible giving. This month, in about 2 weeks, marks 12 years since I was blessed to reach the top of the world at the young age of 29. While majority climbers think they have conquered the mountain when they summit, for me, it was one of the most profound spiritual journeys, one of surrender, refuge, and healing. I was not the same person when I came down from that mountain, the big mama that she is, that I will share shortly. When I descended after the summiting, before I could even reach base camp, all my realities had changed. Everyone who had abandoned and rejected me were now on the ground in Dhaka fighting to take credit. All of a sudden, I had more uncles and aunts than I ever knew. I was getting all kinds of offers, brands, gigs, blah, blah, blah. But the funniest was how many marriage proposals I got. I became, all of a sudden, a national figure for a country that's smaller than the state of Iowa and a growing population of 170 million. And then I became an overnight celebrity. I'm so glad you know this song. It's by Twista. In one of those Everest receptions, held by the only Nobel laureate of Bangladesh, Professor Muhammad Yunus, many of you may have studied his work with microcredit. There was another distinguished guest who was visiting from America. It was former F-16 fighter pilot and NASA astronaut Ron Garan. Ron had just come back from space, and Yunus introduced us saying exactly that, and then looked at me and she said, she just came back from top of the world. I looked at Ron and shrugged and said, I don't think I can beat that, but I know we will get along very well. Thus started our friendship, which is now 12 plus years old. He has been a brother and an ally ever since. Now, nobody in that millions of crowds knew or could tell, because I was very good at masking, or even asked, how are you doing, Wasfia, really, internally? You see, after the biggest high comes the biggest low. It was one of the most depressing times of my life, yet on the daily, I had to be Wasfia Nazreen, be on stage and attend back-to-back ceremonies and reception. And you see, fame is a tricky thing. From the outside, it may look very appealing, but when we don't know how to deal with it, it can really get us off the course. So, at that time, Ron taught me two concepts that I want to introduce. One, the overview effect, and the orbital perspective. The latter, orbital perspective, was coined by him. That has really helped me process a lot of trauma that I was carrying, grief, and then dissolve the divisions that lied in my mind. Forgive my enemies, or perceived enemies, and I hope it's beneficial for everyone. The overview effect is a term to describe the cognitive shifts that happens or have been reported by many astronauts while viewing the Earth from space. To quote from the American Psychological Association, researchers have characterized the effect as a rare state of awe with self-transcendent qualities precipitated by a particular striking visual stimulus, the most important common aspects of personally experiencing the Earth from space are appreciation and perceptions of beauty, unexpected and overwhelming emotion, and an increased sense of connection to other people and the Earth as a whole. The effect can cause changes in the observer's self-concept and value system and can be transformative. Now, I don't think you need to travel all the way to space to have that realization and profound connection to Earth, but this effect and the intensity of it, I felt from several mountaintops, including from the mighty Chomolungma, otherwise known as Everest. Now, if we could just come back to in our space, in our bodies. If you want to close your eyes, you're welcome. I just want to take you on an overview, orbital perspective experience. If those who are watching online, if you're driving a car, please don't attempt this right now. Let's take 3 deep breaths in our own speed. And see if you can bring your mind slowly from your body out and start going up above the body. Still keeping an eye on your body that's on Earth, but you're as if looking at your body and slowly going up, up, above the clouds, above the blue sky. And there are no borders from space. We only have one home, Mother Earth. And we have to share this home. Where are we when you look at that body? Who are around you? How do we treat them? How is our heart to them? Is it open? Is it closed? Just reflect on this. Now, from this perspective, if I ask the audience, how many of you would like to see peace on earth? Raise your hand. Wow, I'm very proud of all of you. How many actually believe that peace on earth is possible in our very lifetimes? Raise your hand. Thank you. Now slowly come back. As I was saying earlier, from that space of K2 and Everest, sorry, I didn't get to K2. So Everest is Chomolungma, and K2 is locally called Choguri, king of mountains, a masculine entity. Now, when I'm talking about masculine, feminine, it's energies, not gender. We all have those energies. And if you look from space, where Everest is and where K2 is, it literally looks like a backbone, and in yoga, like the head and the tail of the backbone. And it's interesting how British just came and renamed everyone K1, K2, K3, K4. I mean, Cassandra would be better named, no? So Choguri, locally called in Balti language, is 28,251 feet. More people have gone to space than stood on the summit of K2. Before I arrived, there were 2 lists. 18 women historically had reached the top, but then even that number is shorter because some of them died on the way down, so those don't count. So it was just to give you a glimpse of how, Everest has been climbed by thousands and thousands of people. K2, location-wise, it's in the border of, geopolitically speaking, in the middle of Pakistan, India, Kashmir, massive army zone. No Bangladeshi was allowed to enter that territory. Now, I won't get into our history, but back then, we were all one country, the Brownies, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan. Bangladesh was called East Pakistan. What is now Pakistan was West Pakistan. In my parents' lifetime, we went through the Independence Liberation War, and I was the first Bangladeshi in 50 years of Bangladesh's existence to get the climbing permit, to enter that territory. Growing up, there is not a positive thing that I heard about Pakistan. I didn't live through the war, but I was traumatized by stories of what Pakistani army had done to us and our parents' generation. And all that may be true. So I prepared well, you know. I'm not taking anything away from the genocide of Bengalis or anything. Actually, Professor Dr. Khwaja, who I was looking for earlier, yes, if anyone taken his post-colonial literature class, that's where I was taught by a Pakistani about my own, you know, people's genocide done by his group of his side of the border. But when I actually arrived in Pakistan, from the waiter to a street person to the army general to people from all walks of life, the way they treated me, the way they supported me, the way they cheered for me. On my last push to the summit, 7 Pakistanis were praying the whole time because their Bengali sister had returned back and was now climbing the hardest mountain on the planet. The love, respect, and hospitality I experienced from Pakistans from all walks of life, I will cherish it till my last breath. I give that example to just differentiate between, give you an idea of power structures and how they work. People to people's connection, heart to heart connection when we're open. I might not agree with you, but I should be able to have a conversation with you. I should be able to sit down and have a meal with you. On a more personal level, the climb of K2, which was another pilgrimage of a lifetime, healed me in the sense that I was not going to hold or pass on that generational trauma down. This is where it ends. Side note, my last chapter of my memoir is called My Eggs Are Trauma-Free. Now, more than ever before, we as a human race need to heal. And I'm not saying it because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I often hear the words, save the planet. To be frank, Mother Nature doesn't need us to save her. She can take us off the face of the planet in a fraction of a second. I have witnessed this over and over again since I was a child to now. Earthquakes, tsunamis, cyclones, everything gone in the flash of a second. If anything, we humankind, we need to heal ourselves. And then, when we heal ourselves, we automatically heal the planet. I think if we healed ourselves both personally and collectively, half of the world's problems will be gone. Sorry, I'm running a bit of time, but I'm getting very emotional. Pardon me. Sorry if I cry. Currently, as we all know, there is widespread dissatisfaction, grief, and anger around all of US college campuses, and I see all of them out there. I see myself as a student. We cannot be out of touch with the outrage of people. We have to be more than ever before make room for dialogue and hear each other, even if we disagree. Let's sit together. And just as there should be absolutely no tolerance on any campuses which are safe zones for people to learn and educate for any kind of anti-Semitism or any form of discrimination against a particular group of people, there has to be strapped up strategies and efforts made for dialogues and actions to build trust, safety, and most importantly, peace. We are here for a very short time. Life is so short. I don't care which perceived side we are at. I think we can all agree that no more innocent children or other lives can be killed and wiped out like this. Because that is the right thing to do. I also want to remind everyone that the good people of America, I believe in you, and that when every time we divide and fight like this, some other people in this side of the map are laughing at us. We need to unite. We need to collectively gather and heal. So let's unite, please. Let's keep on pushing those in power for a permanent ceasefire. Then let's try to really open our hearts and hear each other from a place of compassion. Compassion, just the simple act of wishing others to be free from suffering. Compassion is the complement to love or loving kindness, the wish for others to be happy. And when we are fully able to do that, we set ourselves free. With that, I'm going to just quickly mention 7 points that I wish someone told me when I was your age. I know you're all wiser beyond your age, but I'm just going to throw these down. We all have to, when we go out there, before we go out there, please know your worth. Because if you don't know your worth, the world will not see your worth. Unplug from the algorithm, tune into your own rhythm. Please do not base your self-respect on what you see on Instagram and TikTok. Trust me, I live in LA. None of those people are happy. With everything in life, number 3, with anything and everything in life, having a set intention why you're doing it and having the right motivation is the key. Otherwise, when fame and things like that come in, it's very easy to get tossed off from your path. Number 4, embrace difficulties and obstacles, because only in times of struggle will you learn your deepest lessons. Number 5, transform all obstacles into opportunities. Embrace all obstacles. Number 6, remember, summit is only half of the climb. The descent is way more dangerous, and you need to plan ahead and prepare for that. Don't get lost in the achievement. Yes, you will celebrate all your achievements, but pace yourself. Pace for the longer run. Number 7, with power must come humility. When you reach the top, of course acknowledge, look back, only to see how far you've come, and then celebrate. But remember, we must stay humble and grounded like a tree. Now I'm going to close off with a poem for the class of 2024, homage to the poetry nights at Java Monkey we used to have in downtown Decatur back in the day when I was your age. I pulled an all-nighter last night, tweaking from an old poem because I just wanted to have last memory of how we did it in senior class. So sorry if it's not too groovy. Class of 2024. You're the cloud, the rainbow, the dancer wandering through the sky. You are that rebel no one can tie, the fire that multiplies, the water that breathes life into the unconscious, the thunder no one dares to reckon with, the adventure people seek only in dreams. May you be that tree with roots all the way back to the stars. May you whirl with eternal grace, and may you be protected from the mother's wrath. May you be the light, the clarity, the luminosity, singing beyond all realms of disparity. May your mind be free. Now go, class of 2024, fly and stay high.